I just never thought I would hear Joe March and OnlyFans in the same sentence.
Well, so this is going to be Eric mansplains Little Women to all the women out there.
I think it's beautifully shot. I think the costuming and the sets in this movie are just absolutely perfect. The acting in this movie is incredible. I love it so much.
In a world where entertainment is viewed as mindless diversion, only good for momentary distraction, you are about to enter a new world, and you will never view entertainment in the same way again. This is Popcorn Theology.
Welcome, movie lovers and theology nerds, to Popcorn Theology, where we examine films for where they align with the greatest story and our greatest storyteller, discussing what to receive, reject, and redeem for common ground, fruitful conversation, and mindful movie consumption. I'm Eric.
And I'm Bridget.
And today we are looking at the 2019 Greta Gerwig adaptation of Little Women. This is starring Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Elise Scanlon, Timothy Chalamet, and Laura Dern, and Meryl Streep. And so, Bridget, why don't you go ahead and give us, definitely a star-studded cast, why don't you go ahead and give us some background on this?
All right. So in Greta Gerwig's 2019 Little Women, we follow the lives of the four March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, in 19th century Massachusetts as they navigate poverty, ambition, and societal expectations during and after the Civil War. This version of the story is told in a nonlinear fashion that contrasts their youthful hopes and dreams with the realities of adulthood, focusing on Jo's literary dreams, Meg's domesticity, Amy's artistic journey, and Beth's quiet struggle with illness, ultimately exploring themes of independence, love, and finding one's own story. The film uniquely frames the narrative around Jo's writing, blending past and present, to emphasize the sisters' individual paths and choices, including marriage, career, and loss, highlighting their fierce love and differing realities of womanhood.
Yeah, so we'll do our spoiler-free thoughts for those who haven't seen any of the 7 films or 13 television versions. So we'll keep the normal spoiler-free section, and we'll do our normal ratings: the stale, fresh, buttered, and salted type of setting ratings here. So I'll start. I thought it was fresh. I think it was a perfectly fine movie. I think it was funny in particular too. So I've seen maybe one other version and part of one of the TV series. So by default, this is the best one. Definitely it's emotional, it's touching, and just a little bit sappy.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 parts that really actually got to me. Well, actually, this is, I guess, spoiler, so I'll save that for later. But my wife actually, she when it started, she was like, "Wait, where are we? What's going on?" and stuff like that, because it does not start how any of the other versions start, from my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So Bridget, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, well, just a quick story there. I went the first time I saw this movie in theaters when it came out. I took my dear friend Gwen. By the way, I have to shout out my friend Gwen and my sister Megan, who rewatched this movie with me to prepare for this episode and gave me some really good insights. But Gwen went to see this movie with me, and I didn't leave enough time for us to get to the theater on time. So we walked into this movie about 25 minutes late. And so like your wife, when we walked in, we were like, wait a second, why are Amy and Laurie already, at a party together? And so it was very strange to try to figure that all out. So, but yeah, that was my first experience with this movie. But as far as the viewing experience is concerned, I put this one in the buttered and salted category personally. So for me, I grew up watching the 90s Winona Ryder, Christian Bale version of this movie. And when I was a kid, it was one of my favorite movies. I loved everything about it. I think looking back on it now, it feels a little bit like maybe this 2019 version is the more grown-up version of Little Women, and maybe the 90s version is better suited for kids. I'm not sure, but we can maybe talk about that a little bit more later. But I was not happy when this new version was announced. I was like, why do they need to remake this movie? But
they had remade it many times since the
Yes.
90s, just so you
Yes.
know.
Well, yes. Yeah, yes. This was, I guess the one that probably was getting the most press, had the most
Yes,
hype around it.
I was in 2018. Because I was looking it up, they had just made a modern retelling of it in
Right.
2018. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. This story gets a lot of updated love.
yes,
So I wasn't thrilled about just the knowledge that this movie was going to be made, but then I saw it, and I think there's just so much to love about this movie. I think it's beautifully shot. I think the costuming and the sets in this movie are just absolutely perfect. The acting in this movie is incredible. I love it so much. And it feels to me like it's just the kind of movie where nothing was left to chance. You can tell that Greta Gerwig really knows what she's doing as a director of movie, and just she thought of everything, and every detail comes together. So, and one of the things I love about this movie, I was doing just a little bit of reading earlier today, and just trying to get a feel for general reactions to this movie. And one of the things I love about it is that it's a movie that resonated with a lot of people for different reasons, maybe depending on worldview and what the message is that people took away from it. But I think it's a movie that I'm really, hoping in our conversation with it tonight that we can do it some justice, because it is the kind of film that people loved to just sit with and think about. And I kept seeing people online saying, I can't believe I'm still thinking about this movie weeks and months after I saw it. So there's a lot of depth here to plumb, I think.
well, excellent. No, definitely great thoughts, and I'm sure we'll be getting into a lot of that as we talk about about the themes. So on to that section of the theology ratings. Are we going with diluted, carbonated, or cup runneth over? What do you got for us, Bridget?
I went with carbonated for this one. I really wanted to find a reason for it to be kept over. I really did. And there's probably going to be somebody listening to this who's like, "Oh, come on, it's so obviously a cup runneth over movie." Where I ultimately landed with this one is that I thought the themes that it does really well, and there is much to discuss within those themes, but I thought that the number of themes was relatively limited, so I stuck with carbonated for this one.
So I went with carbonated as well. So there's definitely something about this story that has really struck a nerve with multiple generations. I mean, the story was written in the 1800s or maybe early 1900s, and
1800s.
So, I mean, well over a century has this story been being retold in multiple different ways. I mean, I think there's an animated film or even an anime version of it. Like, there's a lot of different versions of it. So it clearly strikes a nerve. I haven't fully digested why. Then maybe it's because I am a man. And some of the themes I'm like, well, yeah, I understand that, but what about X, Y, and Z? So, so maybe we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. Probably what I got out of the film is probably something that almost no woman is going to ever get out of the film. And that's kind of a good corrective for the women, and also for myself as well. So this is going to be Eric mansplains Little Women to all the women out there.
And then Bridget womansplains to Eric why he might be wrong in some of the mansplainings.
Sure. We'll get there. But this film is all about, honestly, a big part of this film is about, creativity. Joe is a creative. Amy wants to be a creative. She wants to be a famous artist. And Popcorn Theology, we're creatives too. We love to create. We love to digest. And so this episode is actually brought to you by an organization that also loves creatives, and that is Claus Charity. They're an organization known for unique approach to gift giving. This charity partners with local artisans and craftsmen to create one-of-a-kind personalized gifts for children in need. Claus Charity believes that through the gift of creation, every child can feel seen, valued, and celebrated. Please visit their website at becauscharity.com to donate. Donations are processed through Canada Helps, an organization with very low fees, allowing your donation to go as far as possible. Help share the gift of creation with a child in need this Christmas at Claus Charity, and that is BECLAUS charity.com.
What a great partnership at this time.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, we want to encourage you to like and share this episode with your friends if you like what you hear, assuming that you will.
Or if you want to rage share, I'm perfectly fine with that as well. A view is a view. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Share it with all the people who will think that we're wrong about everything we say.
Yes.
But let's broaden the conversation, whatever the reason is for broadening it.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more, go ahead, do that. All like and subscribe, follow, do all that sort of stuff on all the socials. Yeah.
And one quick way you can help support this podcast is just to rate and review the Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. Or you can even support us financially through Patreon.
Yeah, so if you do one of those rate and reviews and you send it to us here, David will send you a little free gift as a token of appreciation for your 5-star review. So get those reviews in. Love to have some of those. And yeah, as Bridget said, you can become a patron saint of Popcorn Theology. And this gives you special access to a whole host of exclusive benefits, including a special Facebook group, a special channel within our Discord server, and you can vote on future episodes, which we haven't even talked about yet. This is one of those episodes. Mm-hmm. And for our premium seating members, you get some special access to some of our In the Lobby podcast episodes. And that's a place where we interview creatives and experts in their field about certain trends that go on in film and in theology too. Mm-hmm. So with that, we'll go ahead and do our customary ad break, and we'll get right back into more of Little Women.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane!
Cinemagogue, The Marvelous Era. James Harleman here, the cinema guy, announcing the sequel to my first book on film and faith. Let's face it, entertainment has changed dramatically since the first book published in 2012, and comic book characters and franchises are everywhere. So I decided to set my sights on superheroes and examine the evolution of Hollywood in this follow-up to the first Cinemagogue book. For example, what does Loki tell us about culture's view of God? Why does the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Infinity Saga continually align with biblical themes? In the Marvelous Era, I review each film and show not only how the individual movies express gospel parallels, but each phase essentially reveals a multi-point sermon. I also explore DC, Star Wars, the Monsterverse, and more. Without compromising scriptural truth, we can sift these stories and discover how we might reject, receive, and redeem ideas for personal reflection and Christian conversation. Also, has Hollywood's messaging gotten worse? The book explores ways these marvelous mythologies correspond with conversion, Christian living, church history, and Reformation, but I do also highlight what has been the entertainment industry's darker, indoctrinating decade, as well as toxic fandom and the dangers of immersion in pop culture that just might drown us spiritually if we're not careful. So suit up, assemble, and join me on a journey to the Infinity Saga and beyond. Cinemagogue, The Marvel Us Era. Now available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle editions.
And we're back. Dropping the spoiler warning as we dig deeper into Little Women. And I just love that popcorn sound. So before we go in any further, we'll stop right here and talk about, well, one, our patron saints. Mm-hmm. We love you guys. All of us love you so much. The choices that you make and the choices you don't make are always very interesting. I will thank you guys for making me actually have to watch this movie. It was a good movie. It was enjoyable. Don't know if I'll ever see it again. But it's definitely a timeless story. So before we go any further, Bridget, how many different versions have you seen? I know you already mentioned the one from the 90s, but how many other versions have you seen?
You know, it's really actually just those two for me. Okay. I've seen just little bits and pieces of the Katharine Hepburn version too, but I have to be honest, I
Katharine Hepburn was in one? I'll actually have to check that one out.
I believe so, yeah. But I didn't love it. I loved it, but I didn't love that version. So yeah, I think for me the definitive versions are the 90s version and this one. I have to be honest with you, I actually didn't even realize how many different versions there were until you had in the notes about the 7 movies and 13 television.
And so people can consume me. I used like Google Gemini or one of those to just do a quick search. So I did not fact check 100% because I wasn't going to go through an IMDb and count every single one myself. Yeah, I didn't care that much, but there was enough for me to be like, wait, there's something special about this story for it to continuously be remade.
Yeah.
And so that, but then the question of the season
Mhm.
is this a Christmas movie? I mean, we put out the poll for the Christmas. Hey, nominate your favorite Christmas films, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one won. It beat actual Christmas movies.
It did, yeah, it did, it did. So that
It
was
beat Miracle on
yeah,
34th Street.
right,
So it's
right.
like, yeah, all right. So why is this a Christmas movie? Bridget,
What?
you can go first, and then I'll let our single patron saint who dared to answer the question,
Who responded?
you respond as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought it was very interesting in the polling for this one among the Patreons. So when it came down to this or Miracle on 34th Street, I don't particularly like Miracle on 34th Street, but I voted for it because that to me was clearly like if we're voting for Christmas movies, that was the Christmas movie. So I would say, for me, the 90s version felt a lot more like a Christmas movie. I think it was a Christmas time release, which actually this one was too in 2019. It came out right around Christmas time in 2019. And then if you look at even the DVD case cover from the Winona Ryder movie from back in the 90s, there's snowfall on it, and it definitely plays up on the Christmas time element of that movie. This version doesn't feel quite as firmly planted in Christmas as the 90s version.
Yeah.
So I was curious about this myself. I personally I think I have a pretty broad definition of what makes a Christmas movie, and I wouldn't probably put this one into that category. But I decided to do some reading and looking up, just trying to figure out why people feel this way about it. And again, shout out to my friend Gwen. I asked her, why do you think people feel this way about it? So Gwen's response was because people view anything Victorian as Dickensian. She's probably right about that.
Yeah.
And if it's Dickensian, then it's got to be Christmassy, right? And anything sentimental to be a Christmas movie. And she followed that up by saying, why on earth do people watch The Sound of Music at Christmas? And that's a great point. There's not a whole lot that's Christmassy about running for your life from the Nazis. But we all turn on our Christmas music stations and hear, a few of my favorite things. That song has become a Christmas song lately. So what is it about these stories that we like them at Christmas time? So in reading a little bit about it on the internet, what I saw some people saying was just that this version for me, it feels less like a Christmas movie, but I understand why some people do put it into that camp because of its themes. We have family, we have sacrifice, we have generosity, we have friendship, we have love. There's a lot of, I really do believe that the family connectedness, there's tragedy in this movie. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of deliberately trying to break bonds sometimes between the sisters. So there's our themes of forgiveness and reconciliation. So I think that those are themes that we gravitate toward at Christmas time as we consider, from a Christian perspective, we're thinking about the reason for the season, right? So we know how much we have been forgiven through the birth of our Savior. And I think that any themes that have to do with that at Christmas time are going to be palatable even to the world at large. So on top of that, you have some pivotal moments in this movie that do happen at Christmas time, plus the New England setting, which I think, just the scenery, the cold weather. There is a lot of snow in this movie. There is, you can just kind of tell it's very chilly. Greta Gerwig used those two different color palettes to differentiate between the two timelines in the movie. So we have a very golden hue on the past scenes in the movie, and then a very blue hue on the present scenes in the movie. And I think that blue hue especially plays into that feeling of the New England cold and chill. So I think that's the best guess that I can make. I think there are just things about Christmas time that are reflected in this movie. And that's why for so many people, it becomes a Christmas classic.
Yeah, I disagree. So I'm not a Christmas maximalist, or what do you say? But for me, it's always is Christmas a character in the story? Is the beats of the story overall, not particular scenes? Are the beats around Christmas, and was Christmas an inciting event? Type of thing. So I'm much more narrow when it comes to what I consider a Christmas film. So I do not consider this a Christmas film, even with the idea of the themes. In all honesty, you can argue. No one does, because he was going to make this crazy argument. You could argue that Dickinson remade what is a Christmas film, period, and what the themes around Christmas are to begin with,
Right.
with his Carol.
Right.
Because he removed all, except for maybe Ghost of Christmas Present, he removed all references of what makes Christmas Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking with my son. He's only 2.5, and I mentioned he's been watching the cartoon Grinch, and in it they have a very loud and great version, honestly, of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen.
Yes,
and I
yes.
said, what's Christmas about? Christmas is about when God sent his son to save us all from Satan's power when we had gone astray.
Mm.
And like that to me is like, if we're going to really get into, what makes something a Christmas movie, and we're going to talk about themes that make something Christmassy, well, then Dickens is not the go-to source of what makes something Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Victorian England's not something that especially New England, when they weren't really even celebrating Christmas at the beginning of the basically at this time of the century. They were still Puritanesque, and they didn't believe in following Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about what makes something a Christmas themed movie, well, whose definitions are we using, and what themes? The ones that we've just grown up with nostalgia, or the ones that have been brought into our world from external sources?
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just me being the Scrooge pre-visit from it. But from our lone patron saint who decided to, I sent the challenge out to all the patrons and said, hey, you voted for it, you picked it. Why is this a Christmas movie? And Ben Wholehouse, thank you for replying.
Yes.
Said, so what makes a film a Christmas film? All of a sudden, there I am re-listening to Jam and David set the ground rules in their In the Lobby episode. And this is like, go back and listen to David and Jam talk about Christmas films in the Lobby last year. I said, by those rules, I think Little Women earns a seat at the table because of its shared themes with the godfather of Christmas films, and that is Christmas Carol, two very different movies. And he's saying Christmas Carol and that. So we don't get a Scrooge arc. Aunt March stays pretty much crotchety throughout, but we do see the sisters evolve while wrestling with socioeconomics of the time and familial conflict / loss. So we also get the past, present, future framework. And then he says also ice skating.
Ice skating.
So there we have it from our patron saints.
Uh-huh.
Why this is a Christmas movie. I guess they are the authority because they did vote for it and they won.
Yeah.
And so we are a actual democracy here. We are not a representative republic. So, or Democratic Republic, I should say.
Yeah, there's no electoral college here.
So there was no veto. As a matter of fact, at the end of the day, because it was actually tied again, I did cast the deciding tie towards Little Women because there was more. I could tell general overall there was a little bit more desire for that over Miracle on 34th Street. So I was, even though I do not agree with it being a Christmas movie, I was the one that decided that we would be covering this today.
You're the reason we're here.
Yep.
Oh,
so no, Jesus, the reason we're here, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So Bridget, with that, we'll go into some of our more buttered and salted thoughts that you had on this, on the popcorn stuff. So what were a couple of your standout moments?
Okay, well, bear with me here because
we can shorten it up a little bit. I want to get to the theology side.
Yeah. I truly love this movie. Whether or not I think it's a Christmas movie at this point is immaterial. I just think it's a fantastic movie. So some of the standout scenes, I'll try to just mention a couple. The proposal scene. I mean, my goodness. I think, first of all, I know I've mentioned, I think the actors at this point, I'll probably keep talking about them a little bit more, but just the caliber of acting in this film is unbelievable. Timothée Chalamet and Saoirse Ronan during this particular scene, I think they are two of the greatest actors of their generation. Florence Pugh is right there with them as well. But I think especially getting to watch Saoirse and Timothy play off of each other and play against each other in this movie, their interaction throughout the whole film is just so enjoyable. So this proposal scene, I was a little bit nervous going into it because the proposal scene in the Winona Ryder version from the 90s was always my favorite part when I was a kid. And, you know, it's the first reason that I fell in love with Christian Bale. So it had a very, very special place in my heart. So I didn't know what to expect from this version, but my goodness, I mean, just the moment that Timothy says, "It's no use, Joe," you know, like it's just this beautiful scene. I love the camera work in that scene. There's just so much about it that I love. So that's one of my favorite standout scenes. Also, I just think this is a fun fact. Again, according to my friend Gwen, Saoirse's real life baby refers to Timothée Chalamet as Uncle Tim, which I think is just the cutest thing in the whole world. So I had to throw that out there too. And I know in a movie like this, I don't know, maybe this just seems like an obvious thing to say, but just all of the scenes when the sisters are together and goofing off and just enjoying each other's company. I just think those scenes are so well done. I love the way that Greta had them, all of the actresses, talking over each other. This is not the kind of movie where, like, you might have to go back and watch it again if you want to hear what Joe is saying in a scene and then what Amy is saying in the same scene. You know, you're going to have to watch it more than once. And that's the way it should be. If you have four sisters together, there's no way they're all waiting for the other three to finish talking before they jump in with what they want to say. So I love all of those interactions. Basically all of the scenes with Chris Cooper and Meryl Streep, you know, talk about them, and they're just incredible. And there are a couple of scenes that I'll come back to in the lightning round as well. But the scenes when it's just Joe and Marmee together, I'm thinking particularly of the scene when Marmee talks to Joe about how she's angry nearly every day of her life. And then the scene later on when Joe expresses to Marmee how lonely she is. And I know we're going to have some conversation with that later on. So we'll revisit. And other things about this movie, I think the scenery is just so gorgeous, and the attention to detail as well. I think we see each of the sisters dressed in a distinctive color, but then Marmee's costumes tend to incorporate all of their colors, which I think is such a neat touch. All of the actors, again, James Norton is another one who's fantastic in this. Tracy Letts, who is the editor at the newspaper, Joe's interactions with him, he's just hysterical. Like he could have just so easily been a side throwaway character, but he's so much fun. And then I'll just point this out, and then I can cut off here if you want. But one of the things I love about this movie is the fact that when we see Laurie and Joe interacting with each other, the two of them are almost always in motion when they are around each other. And it almost always works out that Joe is physically spaced ahead of Laurie, so that he is literally always having to run to catch up to her. And my sister Megan's favorite scene is when there's a moment where Laurie offers his arm to Joe for her to hold on to while they're walking somewhere, and Joe turns around and
punches him
in the arm, and then runs away. So he has to chase after her. And when you consider what's going on with the story between the two of them, I just think that there's no way that was an accident, right? Like this idea that Laurie is chasing Joe and she is always 2 steps ahead of him and continuing to put distance between herself and Laurie. I think to express that physically was just such a brilliant directing choice. And I don't think it's any coincidence either that Laurie is still when Amy is around. So, you know, we see both of those contrasts there just in the movement. The script also perfect. Just love everything. One of the scenes, it cracked me up when I was rewatching to prepare for this episode. The part where Joe cuts off her hair to sell her hair in order to get some money for Marmee. she's crying, and after she has cut off her hair, and it's Amy who comes out to comfort her. And when Amy finds out that the reason why Jo is crying is because she doesn't have her hair anymore, Amy tries to comfort her by saying, I would feel the same way. And you could end that scene there and it would be this beautiful sister moment. But instead of ending it right there, Jo responds and says, I know you would. And I just think it's like this hilarious, like just little comeback, like, yeah, it makes sense that Amy is the one comforting Jo in that moment because she would feel the exact same way. So it's, it hits on all of these emotional beats when it comes to the relationships between the sisters.
So it sounds like you really, really like this movie.
I do really. I do, yeah.
So, but there's something very. I noticed you praised a lot of people and a lot of scenes in this.
Yes.
But there was someone that was particularly left out. So why do you not like Emma Watson?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure, she's probably listening to this and she's going to be so devastated when she finds out. Yes. I'm sure she's lovely. I've never liked her as an actress. I don't know if I could, let's just call it personal preference, because I'm sure there is somebody listening to this who's a big Emma Watson fan and thinks she's the best part of this movie. There's something about her that I just have never enjoyed watching. I don't feel like she disappears into her characters the way that some of the other actresses do in this movie. And she is kind of the outlier for me when it comes to just really fully inhabiting her character. It might have something to do with the fact that in the 90s version, I think Meg is a little bit more sympathetic of a character, and Emma kind of plays her in a way where I don't really feel a whole lot of sympathy for her. And that might be a directing choice too that Greta Gerwig did. I'm not really sure, but yeah, she is definitely on my list of dislikes for this movie.
Okay.
So,
What? Anything else?
Nothing major. I think overall Claire Danes was a better Beth, but it's hard to compete with Claire Danes in the acting category. She's a league of her own as well. And I think Friedrich is a little dry in this one. He's not a super interesting character. I would love to see a guy who or an actor play that role in a way that feels like Friedrich is really deserving of Jo. And I'm not quite sure that this actor did that or achieved that for me. But yeah, I mean, in an otherwise, I think, brilliant film, those are very nitpicky, small little things. So.
Well, I mean, he's no one's deserving of Jo. He's just the second best. That's what he settled with.
Well, we're going to have a conversation about that later on.
Yes. So I'll go to my rating. So again, I thought it was fresh. I'll start with my. It's not even a critique. It's just so when I talk about films and stuff like that, and talk about themes, I generally like period pieces. So many of my critiques are going to be more the insistence of a lot of people of our modern time watching a period film or taking ideas from the past, and then assuming that the world hasn't changed at all. For example, like Amy's speech to Laurie about marriage being economic. Yeah. Was that 100% true in the 19th century? Yes, absolutely. Is it true now? No. Not at all. And to the contrary, in a lot of cases, it's the exact opposite reality that we live in. But you can't convince the feminists that we're still not living in repressive, quote unquote, 19th century, where where when a marriage was, everyone became one, even if there was one head. But anyways, that's a different decision. And so again, it's not a complaint about the movie. It's more people outside of the movie when they start to try to interpret things in it.
Right.
And I don't mean this in a mean way. But the movie is sappy. But it gets to you in a really, really good way. You really feel for each of the characters. And as a father, the scenes with Father March and Mr. Lawrence just touched a deep nerve with me. That three particular parts of the story that really got me and actually had some tears ish in my eyes and stuff is the first one is when Mr. Lawrence sits down on the stairs while Beth plays the piano because his daughter's gone, and that's the last part that he has of his daughter.
Yeah.
when father shows up at Christmas.
Yes.
And that scene, it's very emotional, and everyone's emotional with it. It just got to me. I was like, yeah, no, that's good. And then again with Mr. Lawrence is when he wouldn't go in the house after Beth died. It was like that haughtiness, that hesitancy that he had there. And then Joe came and was like, well, I'll be your friend. I'll go in with you. So those were definitely the best parts for me. It's also, the film was really fun and funny. I laughed a lot.
Yes.
When you were talking about the sisters just being sisters, and when they brought Lori into the gang, that was fun. Like you could tell you were all having fun, and it's funny, you're watching 20-some-year-old actors play 15-year-olds. And so it was kind of hard a couple times to be like, wait, what's the age? And I actually had to Google and look it up. It's like, how old was Amy when she met Lori? Oh, she was 12. Okay. And he was 15. Yes. Okay, not as creepy as it could have been.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, the 90s version, I know they aged up Kirsten Dunst, but yeah, that would have been awkward. Yeah, because if you're having Christian Bale play teenager and adult, but then you're having, you have to age Amy up. Yeah, well, in that version.
The weird thing in that version is that it's when it's still Kirsten Dunst playing Amy that Christian Bale's Laurie promises to kiss her.
Oh, wow.
So yes, yeah. So it is there.
Again, it's not as creepy when it's a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Right,
now, especially back then. Now we'd be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But we are talking about 150 years ago. People, get off your high horse. We have progressed and regressed in some way since then. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get into our theology section. And we dig deeper into the themes now of Little Women. So, Bridget, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Okay. Well, what I want to talk about is the motherly sacrifice and service that we see in this movie. So, after rewatching it for the last couple of days, I've been trying to think about, like, what is the point that I really want to draw out of this? And I think I was just assuming that I would have something I would want to say about the four sisters. But what just kept coming out and jumping out at me was just the theme overall of sacrifice and service. And I thought, you know what, even better than the sisters, Marmee's portrayal of sacrifice and service, I think is the heart and soul of this film. While she maybe doesn't get quite as much screen time as we see with a few of the sisters, I really think that at the end of the day, she is kind of the hero of this story. So we know that the story unfolds the way it does because the girl's father / Marmee's husband is away at war. He's fighting in the Civil War. And so the whole structure of this movie is it allows the audience to glimpse what womanhood on the home front looks like during a time of war. And so because of that, I think Marmee kind of takes the lead here, at least in this version of the story. There might be, I'm sure there, with all the versions that are out there, there must be other versions that maybe downplay Marmee and elevate, or maybe even downplay the war circumstances of the story. I'm not sure. I'd have to watch more of them to find that out. But just focusing on this version of it, I had to go to Proverbs 31. I won't take the time to read the whole thing. If anybody's interested in looking it up, please do, because verses 10 through 31 are just this beautiful portrayal of biblical womanhood. And I thought that Marmee really fits the definition of a Proverbs 31 woman. She is the caretaker of her home. She is the mother to her children. She's serving her husband by keeping his home for him while he himself is also sacrificing. He gets injured in the war. So, he's making sacrifices himself as well. But, I would assume that you want to think that he is off at war hoping that he will come home to the same wife and the same home and the same daughters that he left. And it's Marmee who really ensures that that will be the case. So what I love about Marmee is that she really glories in her role as a mother and a wife, and she embraces everything that comes along with those roles. We never see her complaining about having these 4 rowdy daughters at home to look after. We never see her complaining about not having her husband home with her all the time. When he does come home, we never see her make him feel guilty for all of the work she had to do in his absence. She seems to truly understand, and like I said, just embrace what her role in the home is to keep that home going. So, and along with that, one of the reasons I love the dual chronology that we see in this story, in this version, is because we get to see the juxtaposition of all of the girls as they are in the process of growing up and expressing what their hopes and dreams are for their futures. And then almost right away, we fast forward to the present circumstances that show us how those dreams and ambitions worked out. So it's a really neat way to tell this story so that we aren't, by the end of the movie, having to try to remember back to what was going on earlier. And it's a storytelling device that I don't think always works well in filmmaking, but I think Greta did it really well. So what we get to see here is, I think, a really great depiction of Proverbs 22:6, which says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." In this case, we could say train a child up in the way she should go. She's old, she won't. But this is one of the things I really admire about Marmee, is that she isn't raising her daughters as the children that they are. She's raising the women she wants them to become. And I think that is such a great model of what Christian parenting should look like. And I know Marmee, well, if we broaden this out all the way to the real life Louisa May Alcott, Little Women is very loosely based on her own life. But this was not a Christian home. Her family was very much a part of the Transcendentalist movement. So Louisa May Alcott's father was a contemporary of guys like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, like those guys who were kind of maybe worshiping the creation instead of the creator. And so as far as I know, there wasn't much Christian training. And yet, look at how Marmee parents her daughters, how she mothers them. She knows each girl individually and nurtures each one of her 4 daughters on her individual path. Yet she also fosters a group dynamic that ensures that each girl knows that she's part of a greater whole, and that there really is nothing like the bond between her and her sisters. So I think it's a beautiful picture of Marmee's understanding that these girls are not going to stay little women forever. They are going to eventually just be women. Yes. And what kind of women do I want my girls to be? And so from the moment the movie begins, we see her instilling that kind of training and providing correction when necessary, always in love. And again, I know we'll get to the anger line, but for a woman who claims that she's angry nearly every day of her life, we never see that. We never see anger from Marmee. She really has figured out how to control that part of her personality, and she is a great trainer for her daughters. And then just one other thing I think that stood out to me as far as Marmee's parenting, Marmee's parenting is the verse in Romans 12, verse 15 that says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep." Something that stood out to me on this viewing is the fact that Marmee does not, in the scene where she comes back home after she has been visiting the sick family, she does not take that Christmas breakfast to the sick family. She asks the girls if they would be willing to take their breakfast to the sick family. And I thought, again, as a parent, I'm not a parent. So maybe you could speak to this better, but wouldn't it be just so much easier to just pack it up yourself and not because maybe you don't want to ask 4 girls what their opinion is, right? You might get 2 and 2, you might get 3 on 1, but that's not how she does it. She's trying to teach them the value of sacrifice. She wants it to be their sacrifice. And they do. The girls decide to do that. Later on in the story, we see Meg make, what we would probably agree is a poor decision to buy fabric that she can't really afford because she wants a pretty dress.
Yep.
But then she sells it because she knows that it wasn't the right thing to do. And I feel like that's Marmee coming out in her. When Jo sells her hair, that's Marmee coming out in her, you know, like this selflessness, this constant looking at what is the next thing I can do to prove my love for someone. How can I sacrifice? How can I give of myself to indicate that I have love for my fellow man? Marmee herself, we see her this beautiful moment where she's working at a I'm not even sure what to call it, a stand somewhere where they're giving provisions out to men who are fighting in the war. We see this man come to her he's the father of sons, and his sons are fighting in this war. A couple of them have already been killed in the war. And so Marmee packs up a sack with supplies for him. And the last thing she does is she takes her own scarf off and puts it in the sack to give to him. She is just constantly, endlessly giving of herself to her daughters and to her and for the purpose, it's for her husband, right? You know, like it's for the daughters, but it's also for her husband. And I think that, you know, it's a beautiful depiction of marriage and motherhood. And it goes to prove Romans 12:18 as well. If at all possible, as far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. And I think that is the path that Marmee is training her daughters to walk.
No, excellent. No, thanks for that, Bridget. Yeah, that idea of what about these characters, Jo, Amy, Meg, Beth, what about these characters do you like? Well, what you like about them, they actually learned from their mother. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting way of looking at that, of showing that, no, these girls weren't just women or Little Women and they just had their own personalities and they didn't have this. No, they've actually been being steered by their mother in all these different directions. She's modeling sacrifice for him, modeling keeping a home for him, modeling creativity and allowing them to express themselves. You know, if these were Aunt March's daughters, they would be very different. Matter of fact, you even see that slightly with when we get to my point, when we talk about or later on when we talk about Amy for a little bit. It's like she wasn't parroting her mother when she was talking to Lori later on. That was 100% Aunt March. And so it's these ideas where when a lot of people think parenting is, just get out of the way of your kids. It's like, no. It is very much of, I only have them as a child for a moment. They're going to be adults for the rest of their life. Right. And so you're raising adults, you're not raising children. And it's all about that directing and helping them on the path. It's not about clearing the path. It's about helping them on that path and providing that aspirational example. Because it's one thing to just be like, well, kind of like what you said with the Christmas dinner. Well, this is what it is. We're gonna take the food and we're gonna go. And would that be a proper thing for a parent to do? Absolutely. It's within the parent's right to do that. Absolutely. But that's not modeling an aspirational model. It's modeling sacrifice, but it's not modeling an aspirational one where something that they can still try to live up to. And so when they come across other competing ideas in the world, they'll be able to tell the difference. They'll be able to tell from the aspirational versus the counterfeit. So no, thank you for that. That was great.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So my theme, I went with, it is not good for woman to be alone. And so I'll start talking about particularly Jo. In this particular version of the story, like obviously all the sisters are there, all the other characters are there, but really this story is about Jo. She's the center point of the story. I think she's Greta Gerwig's favorite because she worked with her on Lady Bird as well. So she's really the center point of this film. She gets the most character beats. She gets the most everything. She gets most of this. And the thing is, she hates her aunt. And I say this it almost became a cautionary tale. This type of thing is she hates her aunt so much, but she becomes dangerously close to ending up exactly like her aunt. at the end of the
Mm.
day.
Mm.
And so there's this thing where we don't understand, and a lot of people we get it wrong. We don't do it right. But there's ditches on both ends of this, and you can't call Aunt March a classic feminist, and you can't call Joe a classic feminist. They were written before the real feminist movements even got started. I mean, they were just in their infancies, and so you can see their roots there in it. You can go the Aunt March route where you can be cold, tight, embittered spinster who tries to poison the mind of her nieces away from love and into making calculated economic decisions. Like, that's really what she told Joe. That's really what she distilled into Amy, as you can kind of see, later on. It's, I mean, she doesn't quite say it, but she's basically like, men are pigs. They're going to waste your money. So you need to find a man who you can waste his before it's all, all gone. I mean, it's a very simplification, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it kind of tracks. It kind of tracks.
Right.
Or you can go the Joe March route, where it wants to be the free spirit, wants to move to the city. Once, she rebuffs the advances of the man who she's known forever. She's known forever, who deeply loves her, who has changed his life around for her, and rejects him because why? She wasn't ready to settle down. She wanted to she was like, I'll be a spinster and paddle my own canoe.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's like her mindset, what she wants to do. She hasn't lived life enough to settle down. I mean, and we see that. We see that in the modern age with and I'm not equating Joe March to OnlyFans girls. But a lot of that rationale you find right in that vein. So you have these two ditches. You have the all men are pigs, use them before they use them, lose them before they do the same to you. Or they have the other one where it's like, yeah, I love men, but I'm not going to settle down with any of them. I still have a lot of life to live.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those worldviews, both of those approaches, I should say, not worldviews, both of those approaches end up in the same place, lonely. They both end up lonely. And that's what Joe says. Like, it's a great speech. I mean, again, Joe, she gets some of the best dialogue, and she's passionate. Even the attempted proposal scene, like some great dialogue, stuff that rings so true, but then hollow at the end. Yeah. And is like, and Joe March says, women, we have minds, we have souls, as well as just hearts, and we've got ambition, and we've got talent, as well as just beauty. I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. I'm sick of it. But I'm so lonely. So lonely. And I think one of the issues that we have in I'll just say the West in particular, the other cultures, they have their own issues, but one of the issues in West in particular is we've moved from this model of marriage being a cornerstone to it being a milestone. And when something's a milestone, it's just a destination. It's just a thing that hit along the way. While I'm out building my life, while I'm out doing what I'm doing, I'm preparing my life for a woman. I'm getting myself ready for a wife. I'm doing this. It's this milestone achievement. Sometimes it's even a crowning achievement. Yeah. Whereas the biblical model, the way it works, the way it looks, is no, it's actually a cornerstone. It's something that builds a life. It's as a man, it's something I invited my wife into. I was building something and going forward, and I wanted to build something together. Yeah. I wasn't looking for a woman that I could plug into my carefully crafted next step in life. It wasn't a business decision, or it wasn't a force multiplier type of thing. Has my wife been all of those? Absolutely. But it was something that we would be doing and building together. There's a reason why people talk about the gender pay gap all the time. And there actually is zero gender pay gap between single men and single women. There's not much of a pay gap between single men and married women, but there's a massive pay gap between married men and everyone else. And it's because married men, they get that force multiplier. They, because they have someone, they have a Marmee March. They have someone at home who is keeping everything together and keeping things moving and making the husband want to come home. We leave because we have to provide, we have to do the things we need to do.
Right.
But it's something we get to come back to. And that's the joy. That's the excitement. And that's what makes us want to go back out there again. And so there's a reason why marriage is talked so much in the Bible. So much in the Bible. It is the preferred analogy that God uses to talk about his relationships with his covenant people. It's what he uses in the Old Testament, and it's what he uses in the New Testament. Marriage. And so, like, I'll say it again, it's not good for man or woman to be alone. They are mutual helps to one another. And marriage, and this is the other thing, marriage is not a zero-sum economic decision or even a crowning achievement to be fulfilled within life. It was designed by God to be the foundational cornerstone of all human civilization. So you can say that Aunt March has some correct criticisms of capitalistic America. Absolutely. You can say Joe March has some great critiques about the patriarchal system in America that tries to keep women down and stuff. Absolutely. But where they both go wrong is the denial of where the joy and where the ability to actually build a true life to get with someone is going to be within the context of marriage. And so that's Eric George mansplaining Little Women to all the women out there.
Also, I mean, I'm sorry for laughing because you're making such a great point. I just never thought I would hear Joe March and OnlyFans in the same sentence. That in and of itself was, I mean, that's worth the price of admission right there.
The seeds of the same ideology are there. They're right there.
Yeah. So, and I think you raise so many good points there. And I made a note of this later on, so I don't want to get too far ahead of us. I think you and I might have different perspectives on why exactly it is that Joe turns Laurie down to begin with. So that maybe we'll have that conversation in just a couple of minutes when we get to the lightning round. But I do think the point that you're making here is such a good one. The idea that marriage is something that you bring two people together who you don't have to wait until you have it already all figured out. What does that even mean, having it all figured out and then you get married? No, get married and then figure it out together. That's how marriage is supposed to work. I think that's the way God created it to work. And that was a beautiful reminder of that, Eric. Really good.
Thank you. Let's move on to the lightning round now. I'm excited for this.
Yes, yeah, me too.
All right, so the first place where I'll start with a reject is the idea, again, I basically just kind of hit on this, marriage is economic. Like, ironically, and it's kind of funny, is like, in the context of this is talking about how women are at an economic disadvantage when they enter into marriage. Ironically, in the modern era, I see a lot of this attitude among men. I go into any of like red pill ish and even further to outliers on the manosphere side, and they are not very positive about marriage because almost across this country, most divorce laws are written in favor of women. And so there's a lot of men out there who are very embittered about it because they just look around and go, why would I get married? A friend of mine, he's just about to finish up his a divorce, unfortunately. And we were talking a couple weeks ago out in my garage, and he was relating a story. Someone asked him, hey, do you ever think you'd get married again? And he's a Christian guy, great father. And I believe if he ever wants to, he will get married again. So he was joking when he said this. And he was like, well, I said to the person, I was like, well, I finally have money in my bank account again. I have a credit score that's over 800. I'm completely out of debt. Why would I ruin that? But that is the mindset that a lot of people are bringing into it. So that's why I say reject this idea of marriage as this economic, engagement. with that said, the practical side of me will say this: if you do get married, because of how the modern laws are written, every marriage automatically has a prenup, the one that the state wrote for you, or the one you write yourself. So go ahead and get a prenup. But that's my advice to all the single people who aren't married yet: get a prenup that you and the person you love most in the world have decided for yourselves, and don't leave it up to, unfortunately, if it ever happens, the lawyers at the end of the day. So, free advice.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that point about the economic nature of marriage. I think too, and I'm pretty sure you get to this in one of your receives or redeems too. So I'm going to be careful what I say here, so I don't step on your toes for later. I think the other side of that, we kind of look at it as an either or. Like, so, okay, if it's not an economical decision, well, then obviously it has to be one that's just based on how I feel about someone, right? So like if we take the economics completely out of it, then all that I'm left with is just, do I have those mushy romantic love feelings for the person? And that's what I'm going to base my marriage decision on. And I think that can be maybe not the best indicator for a successful marriage as well. So I'll stop there so we can you can hit on that point a little bit later.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate, it's like men and women, period. Like, it's not a size thing. We just need to stop keeping score. As like everyone's like so fascinated about like keeping score, like who's getting, and it's not even who's getting more. It's like who's getting the worse out of marriage.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's really a race to the bottom of like who's coming off worse. And it's like, no, it's like, it's very much as a victim mentality that's getting into the start of marriages, or even people who aren't even married yet. It serves no one any good, and it turns the union of two people becoming one into a game of who's getting the better end of the deal. When it's not meant to be that. As I said earlier, it's meant to be the cornerstone that is building, that God is using to build all of human society.
Right.
So moving on to a redeem, and I'll go first with my redeem. And this is and again, I think I know where your critique's going to come from a little bit with this. So I will say, when I say this, I'm actually talking to the men in particular.
Okay.
The romantics at heart. Do not be a Lori to a Joe. Men and women can't just be friends the way that Joe wanted them to be friends. I didn't say men and women can't just be friends. I said the way that Joe wanted it to be. Because once Lori started having feelings for Joe, the way that Joe wanted to be a friend was no longer an option.
Yeah.
And so he got, and this is his own fault, I'll blame it on him. It's like he got too close too soon. He pursued her, he changed himself for her, and at the end of the day, she still rejected him. He got friend zoned. Now the story plays it off that she just didn't love him. And that's and that's fine, because at the end of the day, for how close they were, it would be odd to love Lori because he was so close to her that it would have been like loving her brother.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing that guys need to understand, is how women love and how men love are two very different ways.
Yeah.
And so Lori believes he's getting closer to Joe, and he loves her more and more and more, and he wants to marry her. Well, Joe sees Lori getting closer and closer and closer, and she loves him, but she loves him like a brother. It's someone she's grown up with. And that's why I say he got too close. He's got too close. It was only after she rejected him, and then there was time and separation away, that she realized how good of a guy he actually was. But by then, it was too late. Fortunately, and this is the fortunate part for Joe, she did find love and did get married. But that happy ending is also part of the sappiness of the film. And again, maybe even economic. Maybe it didn't even really happen. Joe just wrote it in at the end to make the publisher happy. That could be the fanfic part of the story. But a lot of times that's not the real life part of it. And to save anonymity, I know several people who had great opportunities and then chose to, no, it's not perfect. And then they are still single today because they were looking for the perfect moment.
Yeah.
So sometimes you miss the opportunities and the opportunities are gone forever. So
Yeah.
go ahead and reject my redeem. So.
No, hearing you talk it out, I don't think it's necessarily that I disagree with what you're saying. I think maybe I just have a different perspective on it. So as a single woman, I think that Joe's rejection of Laurie, like you said, it's based in the fact simply that she doesn't feel that way about him. But there's a lack of romantic feeling on her part, but I also think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's Joe's understanding that they are actually not good for each other, that their marriage would not be a healthy expression of their relationship. I think she knows that they are better as friends than they ever could be as a married couple. She says to him right in that in the proposal scene, we would drive each other crazy. Like, I don't want you telling me what to do, but you would try it anyway. And I don't want you to feel like you're not good enough for me and that you always have to be changing. Like, I don't think it's that she can't see how much Laurie has tried to become a better man for her. It's that when they're too similar. And when you put those two personalities together, the marriage would probably not be a relationship of both of them spurring each other on toward excellence. It would probably turn into a nagging kind of relationship where neither of them is happy because they never feel like they have met the other's expectations. So from my perspective, I feel like Joe actually has the wisdom in this situation. I think she saves them both from what would be potentially a disastrous marriage. Now, later on, then, when she talks about how lonely she is, then yeah, it's easy to kind of look back and say, well, you had your chance, you blew it. It's your own fault that you're lonely. But again, as a single woman, I would rather deal with feelings of loneliness than be trapped in a marriage that is a bad one. And that is not an easy choice to make.
No.
It's not easy to maybe have a prospect, but to feel like it's not right. So if your choices are, well, yeah, I could be in this relationship and maybe it would be okay. And Eric, it's so hard to balance too, like, because how do you know if you're turning down something that could be good just because it's not perfect, like you were saying before? Maybe God has this for you because it's never going to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person, right? So how do you know if that's what's going on, or if you should walk away because there's just something about it that just doesn't feel like this is how I want to spend the rest of my life? But if you choose to walk away from it, that loneliness is the only alternative.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy choice. There's nothing about that is easy, but just because you have to deal with the loneliness doesn't mean that the cure is you should have married Laurie, And I love Laurie, but I don't think she should have married him.
Yeah. I don't know if she should have married him at all either, but it is more of the, I'll just say, talking about the archetype. There's a certain archetype out there where, the Bible in Song of Solomon talks about it. Now it's a female talking, and it's particularly talking about sex. But the context it works is do not awaken desires until it's time, until it's ready. Yeah. And I think that's part of, and it's kind of one of those things. If Laurie wasn't so close, maybe he wouldn't even develop those feelings for her to begin with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then they would have known early on, they wouldn't have had to have a breakup, for them to have known, and it wouldn't have been this painful thing. And who knows, maybe she would have found someone else quicker or sooner because she wouldn't have had this, or there would have been separate and she would have seen his actual personality, his actual growth. He could have become his actual person, and they could have ended up together, or he could have still ended up with with Amy at the end of the day.
Right.
And so talking about Amy, that goes on to my other redeem, is actually something that Amy said that I was like, that's really powerful, and we need to get this a lot more. So Amy says, I believe we have some power over who we love. It isn't something that just happens to a person.
Yeah.
And Laurie says, I think the poets might disagree.
Mhm.
And again, she in that scene is talking about the economic decision of
Yeah.
who you love. But this is something that really the West needs to really desperately overcome. And that is the idea of a soulmate.
Yeah.
We do not have soulmates. We choose who we love because we feed or starve the things that cause us to love. Love is an action. Love is not an emotion
Right.
or feeling. It's primarily a series of acts. It's not one act as, oh, I'm going to love my wife today. It's like, no, it is, I love my wife by writing her a note. I love my wife by taking out the trash. I love
Yep.
my wife by doing X, Y, Z plus A, B, and C. Like, it's a series of acts. It's not
Right.
one grand gesture or something that falls upon you. If you have something fall upon you and it feels like love, it's most likely lust. And if you give yourself some distance from that person, it will most likely go away and you'll hate them probably in a week or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is such a powerful point. This is something I actually sometimes I talk to my students about things like this. The idea that marrying for love, the feeling of love, however you define love, is a pretty modern invention as far as human history is concerned.
But
if you want to look at it as a privilege, we're privileged to live in a time.
That's part of what they're fighting with in this
Right.
story. It's like, that's how new it is.
Yeah.
This was a new idea in their time.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I love that too. I mean, I think it would be when you share the planet with 8 billion other people, it would be silly to think that there is one specific human being on that planet that is the only person who could ever make you happy. But I think, and even in some ways that idea becomes dangerous, right? Because then like if you get married to someone, but then you think, oh no, it's the wrong person. Well, now I have that excuse to leave the marriage to go be with somebody else. But that's not the biblical model for what marriage is. Marriage is you commit to someone and you forsake all others. It's not that there's no one else out there who could make you happy. It's that you stop looking. You picked your person and you stop looking.
Mentor of mine changed my life. Yeah. And things. He wasn't talking about marriage when he said this. He was talking about business decisions. He said, make a decision, then make it the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what marriage is. If you married the wrong person, congratulations, you're married. Now make her the right person.
Right. Yep. It's within your power to act in such a way that it becomes. I'm sorry, it's a little bit tangential, but I keep thinking of the song in Fiddler on the Roof, "Do You Love Me?" I'm not sure if you're familiar with Fiddler on the Roof or not, but the idea that these two people got married, it was an arranged marriage, and they've been married for 25 years and raised their children. And at the end of, in this song, they are literally asking each other, like, do you love me? Is that something that has grown in our marriage? And they ended by saying, I suppose I do. So love had nothing to do with the reason why they got married, but I think it's so beautiful that love can grow if respect is there. Love and respect don't have to be very different from each other. Sorry, that's a whole different movie, a whole different episode, but it seemed to fit with what we were talking about here. So I'll jump to one of my receives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I actually just have the one, and it's very similar to what you were just talking about. It dovetails nicely here. I just love the idea in this movie of generosity as a way of life. And so you were kind of just talking about the idea of love being born out through actions in the context of marriage. And I think we can broaden that out and just say that love is action regardless of the relationship. Like this is how we love God, by loving others, right? That's what he put us here on this earth to do. That's why he doesn't just immediately take us home to heaven the instant that we're saved. We're here to show others God and be Christ to them through our actions and our words and our deeds. So just generosity as a way of life. I think this movie depicts that really well. I didn't have a ton of rejects. I think, again, this kind of goes along with something that you have been talking about. I think this line is such great writing, and I love the way it sounds, but it's right about when Meg is going to get married. It might even be the morning of her wedding. Joe says to her, "You will be bored of him in 2 years and we will be interesting forever." And she's trying to get her sister not to get married so she can keep her to herself. So it's a great line. It's really, really good writing, but obviously the wrong sentiment. So I think we can reject that. And then just some of the pictures of pettiness and malice that we see women capable of. We haven't had a chance to get a whole lot into the gender roles that I think are apparent in this movie, but there are some really, really great scenes that show what women are capable of when we are pushed to our emotional limits, even with our sisters. There's cue Amy burning Joe's book. So reject, obviously, we're all going to have those impulses from time to time, but, learn how to master those. And that's where Marmee comes in. I love the scene. I'm angry nearly every day of my life. I'm not patient by nature, but after 40 years of experience, I'm learning not to let it get the better of me. So as a redeem, I think anger and passion can be forces for good when they are channeled properly. And I think Marmee shows us how to channel properly. If she never said that she's angry all the time, we wouldn't know that she's angry all the time. So take every thought captive and dwell on things that are good and lovely, and commit yourself to the people who are in your life and channel your passion in that direction. And you can be just like Marmee. You might feel the anger, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with it? I think I like the way that this movie depicts the complicated nature of female relationships too. Yeah. So I think there's much to redeem there. I won't spend a whole lot of time going into that. We probably talked long enough as it is. But yeah, just the fact too that Greta Gerwig, I think she can't get away from making movies that in the end celebrate defined gender roles, and I'm sure that's her intention, but there she is reflecting her creator. I think I think even Barbie did it to a certain extent, and I think this movie certainly does as well. So just a very, very beautiful movie about
it's the ironic thing is that if you're going to tell classic stories that transcend culture and time, they're going to tap into something that people recognize as real.
Yes.
And so why did certain people like Barbie as much as they did in certain elements and certain scenes? Because it tapped into something that was true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And I think she seems to think that she's always hitting on something subversive, but I'm not sure that, and in some, a lot of it depends on worldview. It depends on what your presuppositions are that you're bringing into the movie with you. But there is, I think, much to appreciate about the way that she has men being men and women being women as well. So well done, Greta.
Yes. Excellent. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Bridget, thank you for coming on and listening to me talk about a movie I've seen one time and talk about talk about my manly thoughts on a movie that's geared and made for and by women. So thank you for coming on and indulging me with that.
Yeah, well, and thank you for letting me go on and on about a movie I have seen more than once and love very much. So it was a great conversation, Eric. Thank you.
Excellent. So until next time, keep engaging movies and media from a godly worldview. And remember, you are not a mindless consumer.
Thanks for watching this episode of Popcorn Theology. For more content, subscribe on YouTube. Follow and interact on social media to help broaden the conversation. Check out our archive of past episodes at popcorntheology.com or wherever you listen to podcasts, and consider becoming a patron saint by supporting us on Patreon, which lets you interact, influence, and enjoy exclusive bonus content.